Hello, this is Dr. Eleanor Ehrenkrantz, Professor of Literature, and today we are going to discuss an anti-war poem, a very unusual one, called War is Kind by Stephen Crane. The first question I ask myself whenever I read a new poem is who is speaking. In this poem, it's particularly difficult because there are two speakers. First, a consoling one, and then a military one. The one that begins is the consoling one. Here is the poem. Do not weep, maiden, for war is kind, because your lover threw wild hands toward the sky, and the affrighted steed ran on alone. Do not weep, war is kind. Hoarse booming drums of the regiment, little souls who thirst for fight. These men were born to kill and die. The unexplained glory flies above them. Great is the battle god, great and his kingdom, a field where 1,000 corpses lie. Do not weep, baby, for war is kind. Because your father tumbled in the yellow trenches, raged at his breast, gulped and died. Do not weep, war is kind. Swift blazing flag of the regiment, eagle with crest of red and gold, these men were born to drill and die. Point for them the virtue of slaughter. Make plain to them the excellence of killing and a field where 1,000 corpses lie. Mother, whose heart hung humble as a button on the bright, splendid shroud of your son. Do not weep, war is kind. I believe the emotional impact of this poem derives mainly from the pictures that Crane presents and the last stanza. In the first stanza, the consoling voice asks the girl who lost her lover not to cry, even though, and here is the picture, he threw wild hands toward the sky in agony as his horse ran on alone. The second stanza has the military narrator who exults in the excitement and power of fighting a war and who promotes patriotism. He cites the unexplained glory of the flag that flies above them. Could be any country's flag. And he states the beautiful idea of a battle god who can destroy 1,000 people. What power! The third stanza is another consoling voice in which the narrator says to the baby, because your father tumbled in the yellow trenches, raged at his breast, gulped and died, do not weep. War is kind. Well, this is World War I, and the war that they fought in was face-to-face combat, and the weapon used most often was gas, which choked the soldiers to death slowly. The next stanza is a very colorful one, with a flag, a blazing flag flying above the soldiers, and a field where 1,000 corpses lie. The last stanza presents the best simile of the loss of a son in war that I have ever read. Mother, whose heart hung humble as a button on the bright, splendid shroud of your son. The emotional impact of humble as a button is quite strong and sums up the pity that this author feels for every loss in the war. Mother, whose heart hung humble as a button on the bright, splendid shroud of your son, do not weep. War is kind.